Good afternoon, everyone. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. Before I continue, I'd like to introduce our panelists and staff to you. On my far left is Sophia Ruddock. On my immediate left, Stan Komarek. On my near right, Rick Ross. And on my far right, Bill Dalton. And we also have our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Barbara Bartosik, on the far left, and additional support staff on the far right and in this area right in front of me. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on TV, YouTube TV. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act recently and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda with the exception of deferral items, which we will handle firstly and then go back to the regular numbered sequence. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we will first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will be then taken into committee for a decision. I would ask if there are any declarations of interest of the panel or staff for items in this early afternoon time slot.
Yes, I have
Yes,
one
you
for
do.
item 29.
Yes. Could you please explain that reason?
Reason for the conflict is that I act for the applicant on other matters, but not the matter before the committee. So
Okay, thank you.
I'm declaring
So you
that.
can leave the room at that time then. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any deferral requests on this agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 3. Item 17, item 23, and item 27.
17, 23, and 25?
27.
27.
Oh, but 27 is for the later time slot. No, item 17, 23, and 27.
Sorry, you got to do that once again for me.
17,
Yep.
23, and 27.
Okay. Those are applicant requests? Okay. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
None today.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we will proceed with the requests for deferral. The first being item 17, 9 Torbarrie Road. And do we have Ida Evangelista online to speak to this?
Mr. Chair, Ida Evangelista present for 9 Torbarrie.
Yes. Could you explain your reasons for requesting deferral?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Transportation have requested additional information, maneuverability for this project, and we are currently working with transportation to this regard. And we just require additional time for them to have a fulsome review of the report.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the hearing room that came to speak about 9 Torbarrie Road? No? Is there anyone, Adam, online to speak to 9 Torbarrie? Okay, there aren't any, so we can move into committee then, and I would invite a motion.
I'll move that item 17 be deferred so the applicant can process with transportation services.
Thank you. A seconder for that? Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? Okay, that item is deferred, and we will see you later, Ms. Evangelista.
Thank you.
Okay, the next request for deferral is number 23, 7 Elton Crescent. And the agent is Matt Bruder. Mr. Bruder, are you online? Mr. Bruder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, he was sound checked prior and the connection was working fine. I'm not sure what's happened. Matt, if you, he has now muted himself. Let me try unmuting him again. Matt? Matt, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but if you can you please try logging out, logging back in? Maybe we'll stand this one down. We'll go to 27 and then we'll come back.
Okay. Item 27 is 21 17th Street. Do we have?
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. This
Sorry,
is Faraz
sorry,
Buyande.
sorry, Faraz. Just hold on one second. Yeah, we do have the agent on the line.
Sure.
23 or 27?
27.
27. Okay, Mr. Puyande,
Yes, correct.
could you explain to us your reasons for requesting deferral?
Yes. I have received an email 3 days ago from Urban Forestry for not to approve for cutting a tree in the driveway. So we have to revise our drawings. And based on that, maybe we find new variances or some variances gonna be solved. So we are working with Urban Forestry right now.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions on the deferral request? No? Okay, we have no registered speakers. Is there anyone in the room that was here to speak to 21 17th Street? No? And no one at home? Paul, Adam?
That's correct, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
good. So then let's go into committee for a decision on the deferral request.
Motion to accept this deferral request to allow the applicant a chance to adjust the concerns of urban forestry.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion? Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That item is deferred. Thank you, sir. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Any luck with Matt?
I'm going to try him again. Matt, can you hear me? Matt Bruder? I'm not sure if it's a case whether he's not authorized the use of his mic between the sound check and now, but Matt, maybe I would recommend logging off completely through WebEx and try connecting via the telephone instructions that were included on your WebEx invite.
So we'll just proceed with the regular agenda now, for now.
Sure, I'll let you know after every item whether he's come back.
We'll plug and play when he shows up. Okay, the next item is number 18, 41 Kingsway Crescent. Purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have Agent David Eagleman with us. Afternoon, David. Good afternoon, Chair. If you could please make a presentation on your proposal.
Yes. Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you for having me. David Eagleman, Design Plan Services, Inc., 900 the East Mall Suite 300. And I'm a planner here on behalf of the owner. And through you, Mr. Chair, I did provide a detailed justification letter. Just off the bat, I will note we have eliminated variances number 10 and 11. I did address that within my cover letter as well. That was the result of our discussions with planning staff, and they have confirmed they're satisfied. And other than that, I'll note that we have consulted with adjacent and surrounding neighbors. Both immediately adjacent neighbors are in support of this application, as well as other neighbors in the area. We have consulted with TRCA, as the property is within the TRCA regulated area. They have expressed no objections to the proposal. And we are agreeable to urban forestry's conditions. RNFP has expressed they do not require any conditions of approval. And at this point, I'm not aware of any concerns or objections from anyone regarding this application. That's right. And really just briefly on the variances, a number of the variances are related to the fact that we have a very large front yard setback requirement because of the way the street is and the immediately adjacent neighbor to the west/south, where the street dips southward. But the proposed front yard setback is very similar to the existing condition of the subject property and is more in line with the dwellings east of the subject property as well as on the north side of Kingsway Crescent. So I'm happy to speak the variances in detail if needed or answer any questions, but I think that really covers it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Eaglin. And we noticed that you've removed variances 10 and 11, so you're proceeding with 1 through 9.
Correct, Mr. Chair. We have eliminated the front yard landscaping and soft landscaping variances.
Noted, thank you. Okay, panel, any questions or comments for Mr. Eagleman? And I don't see any speakers registered. Is anyone in the room here to speak to this item? 41 Kingsway Crescent? No? Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision then.
Okay, I'd like to move a motion for approval. I think the application meets the 4 tests and conditional upon the 2 conditions in the forestry memo.
Okay, is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's?
I'll second that and just add as revised.
Yes. Friendly amendment as revised. Good. Okay, moved by Mr. Dalton, seconded by Mr. Komoric. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Eagleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. We do have a new call-in user whom I believe may be the agent for item 23. So while I sound check them, Sophia, it shows that you left the... Call-in user with the phone number 905-321.
Yep, this is Matt Bruder. Can you hear me?
Yes, coming in loud and clear. Thanks, Matt. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruder. Could you please explain to us your reasons for requesting deferral today?
Sure, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. Just, looking at the input received, some of which late last week, wanting to ensure that we carefully consider the input that's been provided by interested residents, stakeholders, and if required, provide an opportunity for some consultation, working towards some could be potential refinements to what's being proposed.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for Mr. Bruder?
No, makes sense.
There being none, could I have a motion?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before the motion, we do have people in the room and online ready to speak.
Oh, I am sorry. So somebody is here to speak to,
Yes, we have someone in the chambers, Yaroslava, and we have several interested parties virtually.
oh, the call-ins.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't have any of that noted. All right, so can I call on the person that's in the room? Yes, ma'am. Yes, come up to the podium, please. Give us your name and address.
Hi there, my name is Yaroslava Kobilnik. I live at number 8, 27th Street. I'm
Okay.
Immediately connected by backyard to number 7 ELTON. Upon hearing the request for the deferral, what the applicant has said today, I'm in favor of the deferral if it means that they're going to take the neighborhoods and the neighbors' considerations and concerns into the thought to some improved variances for the benefit of all.
That's great to know, and I'm certain that that is one of their objectives, and we'll see when they refile. So
Thank you.
you'll get notification.
Okay, great. I have submitted a couple of letters of objection already to the original plans, so I look forward to seeing the new variances, the new request,
Sure.
and the opportunity to speak to that at that time.
Well, I'm sure we'll see and hear from you in the near future.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support on the deferral. So no one else in the room about 7 Elton Crescent, but there are people online.
That's correct.
So can we invite the first one on your
Sure. The
list?
first one is going to be Tara Neal McNally,
Okay.
who I didn't have an opportunity to sound check because they joined after, but hopefully it
Okay,
works.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Can everyone hear me? Hi.
Hi.
I'm also fine with the deferral.
Could you, sorry,
my
could you,
main concern.
could you, sorry, ma'am, could you give us your name and address, please?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Tara Neal McNally from 15 Elton Crescent.
Okay. So you understand we're considering a deferral request, yes or no, today? We're not hearing the merits of the application? Are you okay with
Yes.
with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's all we need for now. You'll get notification prior to the revisions that are going to be made, and you'll have an opportunity, if you wish, to participate at that time, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And next?
Next, Mr. Chair, we have Donald Choi. Who, again, I didn't have an opportunity to sound check because they joined after too, but hopefully
It's Troy?
you can hear. Donald Choi.
Mr. Troy? Choi, sorry.
Donald has just muted himself. Donald.
Nope. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear now. Thank
Hello,
you, Donald.
sir. Yes, so sir, you understand,
Yes, I'm okay.
you understand, sir, we're
Yes,
dealing
I
with,
do understand. Yes, I do understand, and I'm okay with the deferral.
okay. That's all we really need. As I've said to the others, you'll get a notification when the application's been revised, and you'll have an opportunity to participate in the hearing if you wish at that later time. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, good.
Okay, Mr. Chair, and we have one last speaker, Christine Mercado. Christine?
Hello. Hello.
Hello,
Do you hear me
Christine.
now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Loud and
thank
clear.
you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yes, the LBNA is here, and we do support the deferral. I would like to. I was listening carefully to the language that was being put forth by the agent, and he was talking about consultation if required. So I was hoping that there would be something in the motion that would strongly encourage actual consultation as opposed to just changing without consultation.
Well, we leave that up to people being on their best behavior, so we're not inclined to move on it, but you're on record as requesting it, and we'll certainly let the agent know.
Okay, thank you.
You already have. Now, Ms. Mercado, have you shared your advice that there's a missing variance with the agent?
Yes, that's on the public record.
Okay, good. Okay, I think is there any questions or comments for Ms. Mercado? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yep. So we don't need to hear from anybody else? Not really. Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll be happy to move a motion to defer this item so that the applicant can further process the application with the neighborhood and city planning.
Thank you, Mr. Kamark.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ruddock. All in favor? That item has been deferred. Now we're on item 19. Just give me a second to introduce this item. The purpose is to legalize and to maintain a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a two-story north side addition, and a new front porch. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances related to floor space index, rear yard setback, length, and soffit height. There are two variances. That's all. We don't have any concerns or requests for conditions. We do not, I believe, have any registered speakers.
No, that's correct, sir.
Okay, so I would suggest, panel, we treat this as straightforward and go into committee and make a decision. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, everything's as I said it was.
Yep, we do have the agent. Faizan Akhtar is on the line, has been unmuted.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee.
Okay, Mr. Akhtar?
My name is Phil. Hey, good afternoon, honorable members of the committee. My name is Faizan Akhtar, and I'm here on behalf of the owners for 2 Ludgate Drive.
Okay. I don't know if you were listening in, but the panel's agreed we don't really need a presentation from you. This pretty
Okay,
straightforward
perfect.
application with 2 variances. Would you be okay to leaving?
Yeah.
If we have any questions, we'll ask them, and if not, we'll make a decision. Can we do
Sure,
that?
thank you so
Okay,
much.
let's do that then. So panel, any questions for the agent? None? Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision.
Yeah, I find the application to meet the 4 tests, and as you said, it's straightforward, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
Okay, is there a seconder for Mr. Komorik's motion? Mr. Dalton, all in favor? That is unanimously approved.
No, it's right second.
Were you opposed?
No, I was no second. He seconded.
Oh, you seconded it.
I beat him on that. You guys.
Got to keep track on these guys. Yeah. That would be
Or one
our
of those
job.
little buttons you press on the quiz shows, right?
So that application has been approved. Moving on to item 20, 8 Northampton Drive. We have a registered speaker, Nicole Morel.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Nicole did register, staff have reached out to her, but Nicole is not on the call. So the only speaker online for the application is the agent.
Is the agent?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good. We have a revised application. There are 3 variances. Numbers 2 and 3 have been reduced. Numbers 4 and 5 have been deleted. So we're dealing with 3 variances. We have a transportation services condition to revise the site plan to illustrate a level 2 charging station. That's the only comment we have on this application. Emmeline Decore?
Good afternoon.
Yes, could you give us your name and address, please, ma'am?
Yes, sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and community member. My name is Emmeline Decore, and I'm here for 8 Northampton Drive.
Okay. The panel doesn't believe it needs a full presentation on this. Your application's very straightforward. Would you be prepared to leave it that we engage with you on questions that we may have, if any?
Actually, I would like to clarify something about the
Sure, okay,
transportation
yep. Well within your rights, go ahead.
report.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So, I would like to mention that the transportation services report has been based on the original drawing, not on the revised drawing. That's why they are mentioning an IV outlet, but if you look at the revised drawing, the EV outlet has been added in the garage, and the driveway has been reduced to 3.2 meter.
Okay.
That's only what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, if we approve this and if we impose that as a condition, it should be a simple sign-off for you to acquire from Transportation Services. Would that be okay?
Yes.
It sounds like you've done what they want anyway. It's just
exactly.
If we had heard from them that they had seen your revised site plan and are okay with it, we would be able to ignore it. But the last thing we have from them is this condition, which, as I said, I think you should be able to clear with them fairly simply. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Any-
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision.
Yeah, I think it works either way because if we approve the revised, we're not approving the variance for deleting that charging station, but I'm okay to, I believe it meets the 4 test, and I'm okay to move approval of the revised application subject to the transportation conditions.
Okay, we have a seconder from Mr. Clark. Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Moving on to item 21. Let's take some notes here. 63 CLIVEDEN Avenue. The purpose is to construct a 2-story rear addition and a new rear deck. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances related to lot coverage, side yard setback, and dwelling length. We have one variance related to the maximum permitted height of a side exterior main wall from 6 meters as allowed to 6.36 as requested or applied for. Trevor Keir is the agent. Mr. Keir?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, hi. Could you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Trevor Keir. I'm at 510 Jarvis Street, and I'm here for 63 Cliveden Avenue.
Okay, unless you feel there's a comment that you wish to make, the panel is satisfied. This is a very straightforward, simple application. There's no opposition to it. There are no conditions. Would you be satisfied with us just proceeding to asking you any questions if we have any?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay, let's do that then. So panel, questions or comments for Mr. Keir? Ms. Reddick, anything? No, we're all good? Okay, then let's move into committee for a decision.
I'd like to move a motion to approve item 21, completely straightforward and it meets the 4 tests and no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Mr. Ross, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Keir.
Thank you very much.
Could you just keep the conversation outside?
Sir, ma'am, could you talk outside the room, please? It's disruptive to us, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Sorry, while we're on the topic, Mr. Chair, the 2 gentlemen here are both here for item 24.
Okay, which is coming up.
Yeah, just
okay.
Yeah, just letting you know. So
I will remember that. Okay, item 22, 15 to 19, BRYDON Drive. We have an application for consent and oh, I jumped ahead. Just trying to figure out how many variance applications there are. I guess just one. One consent, one variance. We have one variance. It's parking deficiency related. These are 2 existing industrial buildings, so there's not really a planning issue to address here. It's just a split of ownership. Planning is okay. We have an engineering and construction services and transportation conditions, 2 of them. Nicholas Moore or Nicholas? Did you put an extra line on the end?
I think it's just bad penmanship.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Moore?
What was your question, Mr. Chair? Yes?
Oh, hi. Okay.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes, we can. Could you just take a couple of minutes and tell us what you're proposing here?
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, members of the committee. We are proposing a consent application at 1519 BRYDON Drive to split an existing lot into 2 new lots, as well as a minor variance application to address a parking deficiency at 15 BRYDON Drive.
Okay. Do you have anything to say to support or justify it, or you don't need to, but just giving you the opportunity? As I say, it's pretty
Should
straightforward.
should you have any questions, I'm happy to
That-
answer them, but in the matter of time,
Perfect.
I'll leave it up to your discretion.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We will do that. Thank you very much. So panel,
Thank
any
you.
questions or comments for the agent? No. No. Okay, then let's go into committee for a decision.
Okay, I'd like to move a motion for approval. I think the applications are straightforward and meet the 4 tests, subject to the 2 conditions in the Transportation Services memo.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Ms. Ruddick? All in favor? Okay, the consent and variance applications are both approved with the conditions as stated.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now we move to item 24, and we have 2 speakers in the room, Ben Friedman and Stephen Vella. Just give me a moment to introduce this briefly. Okay, this is item 24, 290 Lake Promenade. Purpose of the application is to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, 2 second-floor front balconies, a 3rd-floor rear platform, and a deck in the rear yard. There are 4 variances. This application was deferred 4.5 years ago to provide the applicant an opportunity to consult with concerned neighbors and to revise plans to be more in keeping with the zoning bylaw. We have a recommendation to refuse from community planning. Ravine and natural features protection is okay. We have 20 letters of opposition. We have a letter of opposition from the councillor. And we have at least 2 speakers, both in the room with us. Anybody online?
Yep, there's 2 speakers in the room and 1, 2, 3 online plus the applicant.
Okay, I guess we need to hear from the applicant first.
And there's, sorry, Mr. Chair, there was also a forestry report where they requested deferral as well.
Yes, forestry had recommended deferral, and then on April 2nd, they offered a fallback to conditions 1 and 2. Thanks for pointing that out, Adam. So, Jim Pfeffer, agent?
That's me.
Hi.
If you could, hi.
Could you tell us why
Do you
you
want me
think
to
we should approve your application? First of all, give us your name and address, and then tell us why you think we should approve this application.
Yeah, if you could bring up my book of my presentation. I'm Jim Pfeffer from 95 St. Clair Avenue West. So if you take a look at this rendering here, as you know, we're asking for 4 variances. So we're asking for very little beyond what the zoning bylaw allows. One thing we're asking for is a 29 centimeter variance for height. So very, very small. Staff previously didn't have an issue with the 11.1 meter height we were requesting. You can't actually see that height that we're asking for in this rendering because of that sort of eave. That whole 29 centimeters is a parapet for the flat roof, and it's not visible from the street or behind. Before we were asking for a main wall height variance, we are not now. That is because the City of Toronto has revised the zoning bylaw to acknowledge the fact that if flat roofed houses have the upper floor significantly set back from the floor below, it's similar in massing to a gabled or pitched roof house. So when you're looking at this, the zoning bylaw considers this to be a 2.5-story house with massing similar to a 2.5-story house. That's why there's no main wall height variance. We've got a variance for 2 balconies, of course, throughout Long Branch and indeed throughout the Lake Ontario shoreline, including areas like the beaches and Long Branch. Where you face the lake, you're going to have balconies. So these are very appropriate here. Of course, they don't create any overlook issues. We're also asking for an FSI variance, but when we see the building on the site, you'll see in terms of the footprint, the height, the patterns of open space, we're very much in keeping with what you see in the neighborhood. So in the prior site, in the prior slide, you saw this is the site. In the prior slide, you see a building on the property. And there's a quote below, and it says, being compatible is not the same thing as being the same as. And that's an OMB principle, which has become common to site and planning. Some people think this isn't compatible. This is the block segment you're looking at. This house is different than this very eclectic block, but it is certainly compatible with the other buildings on this block. On the next page, you can see our site plan. You can see our length is less than 15 meters, so considerably less than what the bylaw contemplates, considerably less than that very long bungalow to the east on top, a little bit longer than the older but not heritage house on the east. And you can see also we have an overhanging second story, which is actually similar in a way, different in a contemporary way, to that wraparound front porch that you'll find on that older part of the Lake Promenade fabric. On the next page, you'll see variances in the neighborhood. You'll see a number of SI variances in excess of what we're looking for. On the next page, you can see how the footprint of this house compares to the footprint on both these properties facing the lake and other properties in the neighborhood context. And you can see the patterns of open space, the size of our footprint, the placement of our block on the lot, very much in keeping with what you'll find. On the next page, you'll see this block segment of properties facing Lake Promenade, the ones that face the lake. You can see we're very much in line with the footprint, patterns of open space. You can see in the bottom right, that kind of Georgian 4-story house in this immediate context as it's defined in the official plan. A little bit further on the right, that home with a reverse slope driveway, again, presents as 4 stories to the street. And of course, residential on this block segment, that 4-story apartment building. So we're very much in keeping with this immediate context. On the next page, we did a solar study. And what we found that an as of right massing, that pink box, actually casts, as you can see on the bottom, that yellow, more shadow from an as of right massing than what we're proposing. On the top right, I told you that 0.29, the 29 centimeters we're asking for in height, that's the only part of this building that sticks outside of that as of right pink mass that you can see we've modeled. Then if you go to the last few pages, you'll see some of the context. On the top right, those are 2 properties on the next block over facing the lake, both of which present as 4 stories. You can see just around the corner on the top right, there's another 3-story house, obviously significantly higher than what we're looking for. And then on the bottom, a number of modern houses. The staff report said, oh, all those were built before the passing of the, the character guidelines. It's simply not true. There's a lot of modern houses that were built at that time, some with pitched roofs, as you can see, all these 3-story houses, some of which are newer, some of which are part of the kind of longer term Lake Promenade fabric. I imagine that's probably 5 minutes, so happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that. I'll ask the first question. Sir, do you know and can you tell us the floor space index of the current house at 290 Lake Promenade?
No, I don't know that. But that existing house has a below grade garage. So it's 2 stories above a garage. Of course, you can't have a below grade garage anymore. It also has 2 balconies which face the street like this house does. The FSI, honestly, I don't know.
More than what zoning permits, but beyond that, you don't know.
That's right.
It's certainly above what zoning permits, I can tell that.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for the agent or comments? Okay, then let's call on the speakers that are in the room. I'll just call them out in the order that they're written down here. Ben Friedman.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, and the other speaker in the room is Ken Geiger, not Stephen Vella. Stephen Vella is on the line.
Sorry?
The other speaker is Ken Geiger. So we have Ben Friedman, Ken Geiger. Stephen Vella is
Oh, it's
on the
not
line.
per my notes.
Okay.
I don't have a Geiger here. Where is it? Oh, yeah, I did.
He's in person, not virtual.
Okay. Mr. Friedman.
Good afternoon,
Your name and
Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Ben Friedman, F-R-E-E-D-M-A-N. I live next door. I'm the owner of the house at 292 Lake Promenade. I have been there for 24 years, and I'm against this proposal for several reasons. The main reason is I'm an old-time guy, former antique dealer. I like old things and old homes. I respect the past. The area in which we're talking is a former Indian settlement, and historic homes are all around us in that area. My home is not a historic home. It was built in 1950. But even the apartment building next to me is an old apartment building, and materials that were used were brick. And in my home, there were brick and stucco. This is a glass monstrosity from what I can see, and I'm against it totally. I also do not understand, and possibly it's something that I shouldn't bring up, but I believe the owner of this property just spent $20,000 on a renovation of the interior of the property in the last 2 months. And here he is now requesting this variance. And the only thing I can come up with is I was told he was selling the house. That's why he was fixing it up. So I assume now that he's going to offer the new owner this fait accompli monstrosity house that is not in keeping with the area. The home next to this one is the oldest home in Long Branch. It's a beautiful one bedroom, and the home across from it, the gentleman is going to speak to it as well. So in conclusion, I would say we homeowners came here in November of 2019, and we thought we had accomplished something with the owner, that they would not go forward without consulting with us. But there has been no effort to consult with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for the gentleman? Okay, so now call Mr. Geiger. Okay. Mr. Geiger, welcome. Please repeat your name and give us your address, please.
My name is Ken Geiger, and I live at 278 Lake Promenade, which is 2 houses east of the house in present. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for giving me an opportunity to speak to this. My house is 114 years old, and I've lived there for 46 years. There's certainly been many changes in the neighborhood, some of which we saw pictures of from the agent's presentation. So I'm basically opposed to this, as I was in 2019, and my main opposition is just the fact that it, the proposed design and appearance is not in keeping with the heritage nature of our.
I just need to jump in because you both made this comment. We don't govern or dictate design, construction materials, style, flat roof. We don't, none of that.
I know.
It's purely planning considerations as stated in the variances before us. So we're really looking at three things: the size of the house, its height, and the platforms.
Okay.
That's all we're going to be deciding on. So, I mean, I appreciate your sensitivities and sensibilities.
Well, I think the whole neighborhood is sensitive about this, and
just being cautionary about what we consider when we make a decision on this.
I'm well aware that the City of Toronto has rules about how big the building can be, but they don't say much about how it looks.
Nothing.
Well,
right.
We have a neighborhood character guideline, Long Branch. I don't know if that's worth the paper it's printed on, but it's there, and we read it, and we, we like it. So I'm opposed to the FSI, which is about double what is permitted. The height is above what's permitted. The property's got some balconies that I believe are bigger than what are allowed. Or maybe there's more of them. And elevated decks they're not common characteristic on our street, on Lake Promenade in that neighborhood. So. I guess that's all I have, but I do have a couple of questions for the representative, if that's allowed.
Well, you should ask them now and then wait for the answers. Ask your questions now.
Okay, so one of the questions is one of the houses he showed as being he was showing it as being a high house. He did not say what the square footage of that house, and I happen to know it's the house next door to me. It's a tall house, but it does not exceed the guidelines when it was built in 1984. So it gets a bit of a misrepresentation. Here's a tall house. I want to build a tall house. Okay. And secondly, I'd like to know if the owner of this property is a Canadian citizen or resident of Canada. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the gentleman? Anybody else, Adam?
We have 3 online. If it's okay with you, maybe we'll go Stephen, then Sandy, then Christine.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to unmute Stephen Vella now.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Vella.
My name is Stephen Vella. I'm at 42 Ash Crescent, and this letter is in opposition to the development, at 290 Lake Prom. We have lived in Long Branch since 1995 with homes on Alder Crescent and Ash Crescent. This application was previously at the Committee of Adjustments in 2019 and was deferred for consultation with the neighbors, which did not take place. When looking at the latest building design, very little has changed from 2019 to today. City planning letter for this application has again requested refusal, as has the letter from Councilor Morley. The design is a glass rectangular box that has 2 stories over a garage and 2 oversized balconies facing the street. It is a bit smaller than before, but still significantly larger, as you can see by the variances, than the bylaw maximums permit. The FSI is more than twice as large as permitted. There are 2 balconies instead of 1 that is allowed, and both balconies are oversized. One is more than twice as large as permitted. There is nothing about these variances that are minor. The application in 2019 was refused not only because the variances requested were not minor, but also because the development does not fit into the historic block where the proposed build is located. As you can see from the photos, the houses on either side of the proposed development are some of the original Long Branch cottages, although I must correct, the one on the left is from the 50s, which is a little bit after that. To build a glass box along the Trans-Canada Trail next to where original Long Branch cottages still stand does not support the official plan 3.1.5 C, D, and G, where it says the development in established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood, including in particular prevailing heights, massing, scale, density, and dwelling type of nearby residential properties. prevailing building types, and prevailing patterns of rear and side yard setbacks and landscaped open spaces. The key word here being prevailing. The planning report from 2019 and also 2024 states that they have concerns that development does not respect and reinforce the prevailing character of the neighborhood as required from the official plan and also required from the Long Branch Neighborhood Character Guidelines. I ask the committee to again support planning and the neighborhood and refuse this application until the developer can propose a plan that respects and reinforces the prevailing character of the neighborhood as required. So if you go down a little bit from the where you displayed, you can see the table of the FSIs, the variances. You can see the FSI is 200%, almost twice as much, more than twice as much as permitted. Building height is only a little bit higher, but the number of platforms is twice as much, which is a 200% variances. And each platform is quite a bit larger, one being more than twice what is allowed. And if you go down a little bit further, you can see the original proposal and what is being proposed now based on the artist rendering. And it's really pretty much the same. The same that was refused in 2019 is being proposed again in 2024. And I again ask you to please either refuse or defer this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vella. Panel, any questions or comments for Mr. Vella? No? So the last name I have on my list is Christine Mercado. Adam, is that correct?
And we also have Sandy Donald.
Okay. Well, Sandy's name's on here first, so Sandy Donald.
My name is Sandy Donald. I'm from 3436th Street. First part of my presentation, which I sent through in advance, was the whole question of is this minor, both in impact and size. One of the Planning Act's tests on allowing a zoning bylaw variance is whether it is minor, not whether it is major or even moderate. To the public, when they think of minor, they think in terms of numbers. A 0.5 percentage point wage increase is minor, 20% is major. The bylaws are in numbers, height, lot frontage, size, FSI. In the neighborhood development criteria number 8, it states zoning bylaws will contain numerical site standards for matters such as building type, height, density, lot size, lot depth, lot frontage, parking. In layman terms, the bylaws are used as numbers to protect the neighborhood, which is the official plan 4.1.5. If you go by precedent in the OMB decision for 3036th Street, it talks for the board to ignore the magnitude of the variance almost double the maximum permissible would be to conclude there is no effective or effectively no valid rationale for the 3.5 standard. In fact, the rationale is clear. The 3.05 standard is intended to reinforce where appropriate the historical pattern of relatively small homes on relatively large lots. It is unusually low in this neighborhood because only a low FSI would effectively implement OP policy that seeks to preserve the neighborhood character. On the next page, it talks, as there are crucial limits on overdevelopment, the board finds that the FSI standard of 3.5 indirectly supports the provincial interest, PPS and growth plan policies that promote intensification. Do not intend that the same size house be built on smaller lots. It applies to this application. Further down, what is minor? In the city's own brochure, they explain what a variance is. They use the example of 10.0 meter height bylaw in a request for a variance of 10.5%. This isn't even close. The Oxford Dictionary defines not large or important. Saying a deviation of 210% FSI from a standard is minor is a complete distortion of the word. Big is not small, slow is not fast. Variance of this magnitude cannot be considered minor. Probably best example is on the 400, the speed limit is 100 kilometers per hour. If you're twice that, 200 kilometers per hour, you would not be able to tell a police officer that this is minor. Actually, you would have your car impounded. Last page for the application, the size of the variance is 210, 200%, 200%. The number of variants and the impact of these variants is not minor. The request for these variants, in particular the FSI, almost double the, or more than double the bylaw. This application is not minor and fails the Planning Act test. Second thing I sent was in regards to the Long Branch character guidelines, which I will sort of go through. The Long Branch character guidelines, it talks about consideration of the character guidelines in its entirety, not just certain sections. You go through it, I went through it, and against it was a cut and paste job against the actual character guidelines, and it came up that, last page, basically 9 out of the 16 characteristics it fails on. That definitely isn't minor. It fails the official plan 4.1.5. The character guidelines is Toronto's way of giving a physical characteristic to Long Branch. So to ignore the character guidelines would be to ignore the official plan. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the first gentleman? No? Okay.
Yeah, I really do have one question. And I listened very attentively, is your concern the size of the house or the design of the house?
It's both. It definitely does not fit into the Long Branch character guidelines. If there's any application that's gone in front of the Committee of Adjustments in regards to the Long Branch character guidelines, this fits way outside of it. The FSI is kind of off the charts. There is actually 3 areas that basically it's double what the bylaw standards is, and it is definitely out of character to the character of Long Branch, in particular the street, and in particular that area.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Ross?
Yeah, it does. I guess the question is maybe a little bit further. If it were not the modern design with the flat roof and so on, would your concerns be the same?
Yeah, the FSI, that size of an FSI, double what the bylaw is, you cannot consider minor. Yes, I work in the news field. If any of my reporters ever said that, they would probably be out of a job.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right. So we now down to our final speaker, Adam, Christine Mercado. Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, it's Christine. Christine's been unmuted.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Mercado.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so there's actually a couple letters on file. Unfortunately, before we start my clock, I ended up putting in the exhibits without a cover letter. So it might have been a little bit confusing to the members. So I do apologize for that. So what staff has actually pulled up is my letter. What I need them to do is also pull up the exhibits.
Yeah, staff are pulling up the exhibits. Our Adobe's just not cooperating as well as we'd like it to.
It's a big one for sure. Thank you so much. Okay, so my name is Christine Mercado, and I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association. And we do support planning's position of refusal of the FSI and elevated platform variances that the applicant has proposed. The applicant, we feel, has also failed to use the direction offered by the key design elements of the guidelines to minimize the variance impacts to the character of the immediate and broader neighborhood. So if you can go to, okay, so you're already at section 1 in the next page. So using city data, decisions, impact, and walking in the neighborhood, the data shows that the variances don't meet the test of prevailing massing and density of the immediate or broader context. And it doesn't continue the built form features that contribute to the unique physical character of Long Branch. So this is contrary to policy 4.1.5 CH and I. So if you can go to section 2 and then the following page. So the historical, this property is located in the historical Long Branch Park, and it's adjacent to several listed heritage properties. So go down another page where we've done the map analysis. So we did a map analysis for the immediate and broader neighborhood. Next page, keep going. And in the broader neighborhood, the prevailing FSI is 0.35 or lower. And we actually examined this with existing decisions as well. So this is current information. And then if you go on the next page, in the immediate context, the prevailing FSI is 0.35. So there is one exception, as you can see in the red. But if you look at the built form, it's sitting on a block of listed properties, and it takes the notes from the existing properties. So it does blend, so it looks like it's always been there. So if you go to section 3 and browse through that, if you walk through the shared blocks and the architectural lines of the heritage properties are distinctive, the non-listed properties are understated or meet the FSI bylaw and do not detract. So 300 Lake Promenade, as an example, is a one-story bungalow that's spread out on the property. There is a pencil-thin multiplex, which is brick and has smaller windows, and then a one-story bungalow next to 290 Lake Promenade. And I do have those FSIs if you're interested at the end. In section 4, we can browse through that as well. Long Branch also has many examples of old mixing in with new. But the scale tends to be, so we do try and keep the lines and keep the scale so it looks like it's always been there. And so those examples on ELTON and 40th, they blend almost seamlessly. What we found was that the data sheet was too general, provided by the agent, and is well beyond the 5-minute walk to many parts of Long Branch to find design exceptions. But it's not established what is prevailing for height, FSI, or balcony variances in the immediate context. And this is against 4.1.5. And out of their data sheet, only 4 examples were subject to the guidelines. And the agent has included extensions or the property face has been kept, existing multiplexes being brought into compliance, and a refused variance. He's also included Lake Promenade properties that front onto TCRA land and Lake Ontario, which is a different context than Parkview fronting onto the public realm and part of a historic neighborhood, which is the character of 290 Lake Prom. So if you go to section 5, the agent has markets the proposal on the checklist, but that's not the exercise. The checklist is a framework to really dig into the Long Branch character defining features and the key design guidelines and how to achieve true compatibility with the existing neighborhood. So if you go to section 6, and we can just sort of cruise through that, we've highlighted the missed opportunities in the guidelines. So reinforcing the 1 to 2 stories, and this is a 3-story building. Diminishing the size of the garage instead of making it double wide and black.
Ms. Mercado, you have 20 seconds.
Choice.
You have 20 seconds.
Okay. For sure. So you've probably read through that. So I'll just go down to the end of the letter, which is where it speaks to a TLAB decision, which is much more recent. And I think it's quite important for us to look at that guideline. So for 4324th, in this case, the planner tried a similar strategy of grabbing an oversized sample area of Long Branch and to pick out the anomalies without context, and didn't use the guideline to justify the 2 stories over garage, which is with a high FSI. So this strategy was unsuccessful as it did not establish prevailing characteristics in compliance with 4.1.5. So in our testimony, we used the analogy of a bullseye, not looking for perfection, but some of the design elements can be achieved. The presiding member in this case took a more
Ms.
practical
McKenna,
view.
you're well into overtime now. Can you wrap?
I am wrapping right now. So
I didn't recognize it as a wrap. Go ahead.
yeah, okay, no problem. So realize what he's saying is that the guidelines actually help determine if the proposed design reinforces the prevailing massing scale and density of nearby residential properties. And so the closer to the bullseye, the larger FSI could be considered as minor. And we see similarities of this proposal. It's the FSI that adds to the massing and density, and I'm confident that the scale makes the modern physical characteristics overwhelming to what's on the street. So planning staff were willing to work with the applicant to find a compromise, but that's fallen flat. So since the applicant is proceeding against planning staff advice, we would ask this committee accept their recommendation of refusal, supported by the councillor and the numerous letters written by residents of the neighborhood. Because this proposal in this spot, in this part of Long Branch, it does not fit according to the city policies.
Is that a wrap?
And barring any questions, yeah,
Okay,
and I do
Matt,
have those FSIs.
Ms.
if you're
Mercado,
looking for
I
them.
cannot allow you to speak for 7 minutes when I only allow others to speak for 5. So I'm sorry. I think we have to wrap. We've got a pretty clear picture of the LBNA's position on this application. I believe more than sufficient to enable us to make an educated decision. Would you accept my perception on that?
Yes, and
Thank
I
you.
have those FSIs if you're looking for them.
Thank you very much. Any limited questions for Ms. Mercado?
Yeah, I believe you stated that what the average, I didn't catch the number, the average FSI is in the area, but you didn't break it down
It's
to.
not.
Go ahead.
No, it's prevailing, and that is the test. The prevailing FSI, and we use the immediate context, which is on the same block, on the same street. And then we went broader into well over to 39th Street, which you would start getting into the multiplex area. And the prevailing FSI was 0.35 or lower.
But you didn't talk about prevailing FSI on new builds in the last 5 years or 10 years.
Actually, I did actually. Because I did point out in the immediate context for the new builds. So if you look at, there's one red property in our letter, and that is a 0.64, I believe. It's not as big as what's being proposed. But when you look at the notes of it, it's got gabled roofs, dormers. It's actually more of a character fit within the neighborhood. So when you're looking at new builds, and we see them all on a property this size, you don't get a 0.74 FSI variance. Like that is not that, and that planning does the research as well. So we look at what's prevailing, and planning also looks at what's prevailing and what is trending. And so for a property this size, 0.74 FSI is not what's happening on these properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we can now invite Mr. Pfeffer back for a rebuttal on what you've heard, sir.
Yeah. Bring up my booklet to page 6. I think that would be a good spot to start. And then Mrs. Mercado just said that, the FSI contributes to massing. But I think, you saw that model. We are not beyond the massing of what the zoning bylaw allows on this lot. Not at all. We are within the massing. And I think I'd also like to just correct the record on a couple of things. Number one, we did do extensive consultation. We met with all of the opposition in person after the last hearing. We prepared a modified proposal that we sent back through the Long Branch Neighborhood Association to the residents who responded. We didn't resubmit at that time, but following the feedback from that, we reduced the building even further. And I think what we found was that basically no matter what we did, as long as we were presenting this kind of modern presentation of a house, we were not going to get buy-in from the neighborhood. And correcting the record, some residents mentioned the fact that this is a heritage block or a heritage neighborhood, and I'd just like to say there are no registered heritage properties within at all the area of this property. There are some listed properties, but as you'll know, the Ontario Heritage Act, in this map, nothing, no heritage properties, nothing listed. The City of Toronto has tax incentives for heritage properties. If you're in a heritage district as well, you can get grants. We can't be restricted as if we were in a heritage district if we're not in a heritage district and also get those benefits. So going back to that page, Mrs. Mercado mentioned that she had the FSI for some properties. If you take a look at that Georgian number on the prior page, the 4-story one, she gives an FSI of that property of 0.67. To the page 8, please, or page 6, please. She gives a property for the FSI for that of 0.67 for that house that presents as 4 stories. And what I suspect is that FSI number simply doesn't capture that basically fully out of the ground basement. So really what you're probably looking at there is a 0.9 something. And you can see that because you can see it's the same size of footprint as we have. You can see that on this plan, and it's 3 stories presenting as 4. So in the immediate context, and this is really the immediate context, we're fully in keeping, and that is not a pencil-thin apartment building, which is a residential building that the OP requires us to consider, on the left. So this is the kind of immediate context. You can see the footprint. A number of people mentioned the patterns of open space, and you can see we have greater than required side yard setbacks. We completely are in keeping with the pattern of open space. And I think if you just go forward 1 page, again, top right, you'll see the massing and how little we stick out of the allowed massing. And if you go to the very last page, I think there's been a lot of talk about, the Long Branch character guidelines. They don't allow that Long Branch has a different planning regimen than you'd find in the rest of the city. But, if you take a look at those villa lots, those not heritage listed, not designated properties on the left, you'll see that overhanging on the 2nd story. You'll see that wedding cake massing. You'll see the wraparound porches, which create a social space in front of the building. You'll note the grade-related entrance. We do have a 2-car garage, but it's recessed. I would say it is not prominent. Our homeowner here, who is not a developer looking to sell, looked to us to build something like a villa, with 1 space for social, entertaining, facing the lake, less emphasis on the bedrooms, a ground-related entry, lots of social space. This is their dream home. And what we were building in a modern way is something that we thought would be very much in keeping with the Long Branch character. And I think that's also reflected in the letter of support that you did get from
Mr. Pfeffer, you have 15 seconds.
Happy to take any questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Panel, questions, comments for Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, just I'm going to change gears a little bit and come back to forestry, and just a little surprised that they're asking for deferral when this was before them in November as well. Can you address what forestry is looking for?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. If you take a look at page 3, and I think honestly, the time to talk about a deferral would have been at the outset of this, but if you take a look at page 3 of my presentation booklet, you can see the 2 pages, or the 2 trees that urban forestry is referring to in their memo, and the house isn't anywhere close to any of them. The driveway isn't close to any of them. Yeah, so if you, I see this is just starting to come up on the screen. So this memo came up at the submission deadline, but see those two red circles on the left? Those are the tree protection zones around the two trees that urban forestry identified. We are building over the existing driveway, and that was a deliberate choice we made to be less impactful. We are proposing a landscaping wall, part of which intersects with those tree protection zones. If we have to move it, we'll move it. You know, forestry there's nothing to be concerned about here in a forestry way. Nothing.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well then let's go into committee for some comments, discussion, and ultimately a decision.
Can I kick it off, Mr. Chair?
Most certainly. Go ahead, Mr. Kumar.
I think we've heard a lot about this proposal being out of character, and as it's been expressed that, you know, we're not here to judge, or we're not allowed to judge the architectural character of the property. However, I think the way that Ms. Mercado was trying to couch that was that if you are maintaining the character within the and fulfilling most of the guidelines, then that kind of gives you some carte blanche in terms of exceeding the FSI. At least that's the way I took it. And I think here, the reason this one I think is so upsetting to most people is it does neither, because you're going over double the FSI, and you're certainly not maintaining the character. Not that we are here to police the character. So anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, and I think the key word on the design element is we do have to have regard for.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
Does it dictate what we do? No.
No. And I think there was a TLAB decision that basically outlined that.
Any other comments? Ms. Reddick, you okay? Not okay, but do you have any?
I'm fine. Yeah, I was just intrigued.
Okay.
I was intrigued by the car analogy, and I was just been thinking that it's whether it's a vintage Bentley or a hybrid Tesla going 200 on the 401, the 200 speed limit is going to be a problem.
My only other comment, and if I may interject one more, is that if you look at the variances individually, other than the first one, the remainder don't jump out and aren't glaring. It is the first
FSI.
The FSI that jumps out for me.
And as Mr. Pfeffer pointed out, it fits within the approved building envelope. There's no yard adjustments.
Yeah.
Very minuscule height adjustment.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with any of the other variances. It is that FSI that's kind of jarring.
Mr. Ross, do you have anything?
Well, I think that's a good point to bring up. Everything else fits. You know, FSI never should stand on its own. It's got to be looked at with respect to the building envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not asking for other aspects like side yards, setbacks, and things like that. A rear yard, front yard, any of that stuff, which is the building envelope.
Yep.
So I guess my perspective is, I think maybe they've gone a bit too far with the FSI. You can write off some of it with fitting the building envelope. You can write off some of it with other properties, but I think maybe the number they've finished with is maybe a little bit too hard to take. A little bit too hard.
Yeah, it's a 5,000 square foot house basically. 4,850. I'll say 4850. You check it on Google. 36.9. Oh. I thought it was 441 meters square. 441. Oh.
The new dwelling will have a floor space index, which is equal to 343.28 square meters. No? Am I looking at the wrong application?
I think so.
Yeah. So
I'm looking at
that's,
the wrong application.
so that's about 3,700 square feet.
Oh, you know what I'm looking at? November 2019.
Oh,
It's time for me to get with the program.
see, they have come down in the square footage.
Yeah, quite considerably, actually.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty close, but not quite.
So are we ready for a decision on this?
As I say, I'm a little bit torn because it's really just one variance that's holding me back from approving this. But, it's a key one, and I'm going to, on balance, I think, agree with planning and move for a motion to refuse.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? The application is refused unanimously. Thanks to everyone for their participation. Moving on to item 28 Eagle Road. This application was deferred in August 22 to provide the applicant with an opportunity to consult with planning and urban forestry. There are 8 variances. Transportation services has requested 2 conditions of approval, and urban forestry has requested their condition number 2. I'll put this to the panel. I think it comes out as a pretty straightforward application. Does anybody require or desire a presentation? Just, we're good? Okay. Eduardo Ortiz is the agent. Mr. Ortiz?
Yes, Eduardo Ortiz, 28 Eagle Road.
Hello, sir. Yes, we've just been discussing whether or not we need a presentation, a full presentation on your application. The consensus is no. It's pretty straightforward. Would you be satisfied with limiting your participation to answering any questions we may have?
Absolutely. I'm fine with that.
Let's do that then. Panel, questions, comments? None? Okay, that's okay. That's a good comment. Then let's go into committee for a decision.
And on that basis, I'd move a motion to approve, as I believe it meets the 4 tests, subject to the forestry and transportation services conditions.
Is there a seconder for Mr.
I'll second that.
Mr. Kamara? All in favor? That application is approved unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, before we move on to item 26, I just wanted to update the folks that are online attending the 3 p.m. session that we're still considering the 1 p.m. session. So you'll get an update as to when we start the 3 p.m. session as one becomes available. Thanks for your patience.
Okay. Oh, question. Could we take a short break? Like, yeah, good. So we'll say 345 or 50? You sorted it out. 50, you win. Is that okay? I'll give you the next one. 350 it is.
This is not an auction sale.
Yeah. I feel like I'm selling something.
So what time is it that we come back?
350.
3:50. Okay. That's roughly 15 minutes. We're on Lombardi time, that's all. I think Pfeffer pushed the envelope just a little bit too far. If it had been maybe 0.7. But that's his style. He used to prevent me if you're push too much. Yeah, he could have done it. And he didn't make an effort to do it. It's almost if he wanted to be rejected so he could appeal. But he can't appeal. No? Or appeal. But one of the reasons for TLAP is so we didn't go over the rules.
Yes. Okay, folks.
Yeah.
We have decided that in light of the fact that the 4 3 p.m. items, in my mind, are very straightforward, we just we won't stop and have a separate session. We'll just continue. So I don't have to read my opening remarks again.
It is another. He has to read these. He has to read it. The remarks.
I just filed my remarks away for a month.
It's never quick if you have a lot of people want to speak.
Okay, how are we doing?
Take a break anyway. Training.
We should still be done by call.
Do I have that?
Mm-mm. There's only one speaker.
I'm the only other fifth. Yeah, it needs to be constant.
28 has one speaker, that's it. So we get one more when we come back, and then yours that you have to step out.
to get people to visualize what's there, no? Are you talking about it, or they have some? No, they have the agents. They have the agents. So I go, how to no, you don't have if you don't want to. I know. They might ask some questions or something. But that last one is all the. You're going to ask the agents. I mean, if you want to stay here, you already stayed here for. You know, you've been here. So I don't think it'll be too long. Okay. I think. We're oh. Oh, yeah, no. I hope we can do this. Who's playing? Milan's playing with Roma. Because all of that is, you know the score, right? Oh, don't tell me the score. Don't tell me the score.
No, a little cubicle there, they actually have a payphone in there. Does that mean the long branch?
Roma's good now. He was good.
No, Pepper does.
But Roma's good now. They fired Mourinho out of the Rossi coaching. Okay. In 1970, the Polish team playing against AS Roma, and the offensive line umpire subject. It's from the Silesian region, southern part of that. They lost to Manchester City. But it was a big game. Two of them, it was, you know, tied. Yeah. Then it was another game, then it was extra time. Yeah. And it was time, and they didn't calculate the goals at that time, as you know. Yeah, away goal. That's right. So the final was in okay. And the referee tweaked it. I remember, I think even that was the Belgium referee. He didn't want us to do that, so I think maybe it happened once or twice where the two teams were tied, and they flipped the coin to see who won. And the coach from Roma, he was a gentleman from Argentina. His name was Elenio Pereira. Yeah, he was going to coach Inter too. Yeah, exactly. And in the Roma player, it was a few guys, the Capello, okay, the problem with this. Capello ended up not bad, eh? He was better coach than Pereira. I don't, whatever, I don't drink so much too much. I like to do that. So, I don't know. Today I don't feel good. I think really good to lose. Don't tell me that. I think they're I watch every look at what's happened with Barcelona and Paris. Donnarumma. This is why the goalie. Then I got to be the Manchester City game with Real Madrid. They had like the first but the first goal, you see the highlights, the first goal with Bernardo Silva? Yeah. Who applies in the net? That's why it's important to have your top goalie. As far as I remember, his teams are strong, then they go down like this. The grid all steady. Alfredo Di Stefano. That was in the 60s, right? In the 60s, or in the 50s. And the Hungarian striker. Yeah. From 83 on Wembley. Didn't they win 5 Champions League in a row? Something like this. He escaped from Hungary. And now, the biggest stadium in Budapest is named after him. Okay, then. She just needs to make a bit of a conversation based on the whole list of everything.
Mr. Chair, Barb's back, so whenever you're ready, we can get going on 26.
Oh, I don't do that now. Okay, we will resume now with a consideration of item 26, 711 to 721 Royal York Road. This item was deferred last August to provide an opportunity to consult with urban forestry and to correctly post notice. We have Ravina Natural Features telling us that a development application is in progress. And we have clearances from TRCA and Transportation and one opposition letter. I don't believe we have anyone online to address this one.
That's correct.
Correct, Adam?
Correct.
Okay, can we, ladies and gentlemen, consider this as a fairly straightforward matter? Or do any of you request or require a presentation? No? Okay. Okay, well, let's...
I am present. If you have any questions, I am the agent. Can you hear me?
Sorry, who has a question?
Hi, my name is Amin Ibrahim. I'm the agent.
Yes.
Representing the owner.
You're okay just to answer any questions we may have?
Certainly.
Okay, let's do that then. Panel, questions, comments for the agent?
Just one question. My only issue is the parking deficiency of 40 spaces. And I understand transportation is okay with it. I just wanted to, would like you to touch on that because the caveat that transportation is noting is that there's going to be a reduced student population. But can you comment or confirm that?
Certainly, I can talk a bit to that. So, the Etobicoke bylaw requires 134 spaces, and that is an Etobicoke bylaw. It's not the harmonized city-wide bylaw, and we're proposing 94. Worth noting is that the current school, which will be demolished, accommodates 1,500 students plus staff. The new school will accommodate just under 1,300 and a commensurate proportionate reduction to staff. The parking is intended at all TCDSB schools for staff and visitors only, not students. Students have access to the Barry Road lot across the pedestrian bridge, across the Mimico Creek. Also worth noting is that the existing condition for the existing school has 106 marked parking spots, not the 134 that the zoning requires. So relatively speaking, we're asking for a 12 stall reduction, which we feel is commensurate with the reduction also in student and staff count. A transportation impact study has been conducted by traffic engineers, which details the parking requirements and current traffic issues and is in support of the proposal. And transportation at the city has reviewed this and this is part of the reason why they support it as well.
Okay, thank you. Can you just, out of a curiosity now, can you explain to me where the students are expected to park?
So student parking is not provided on site. There is a parking lot on the other side of Mimico Creek across the pedestrian bridge. So students do park there and then they walk across the bridge onto the property.
Yeah, I get that, but it's out of air. Okay, so that parking lot across the creek, I mean, what is that, 20 spaces?
I don't know how many spots it is. But I think worth noting is that the school does not provide parking for students, and it never has. That's a standard TCDSB policy.
Okay.
So it's not intended for students. It's intended for staff.
I drove to high school. Whether you tell them they can drive or not, they will. So, okay. Yeah, no, that's a bit of an eye opener for me. I had no idea there was that little parking lot there. Is that city-owned property by any chance?
The Barrie Road parking, I believe it is. But
Okay.
I'm not. You can't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Well, I'm surprised we haven't put the pay and display machine in there yet. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Anything else, anyone?
The answer to that and the explanation also of the FSI, I think it makes it pretty straightforward.
Okay, well, let's go into committee for a decision then.
So I will move to approve the application subject to the forestry condition.
There isn't a forestry condition.
There
are no conditions.
I thought, sorry, I thought I had. Okay. My fault. I thought the forester was asking for something.
So are you okay with a motion to approve without conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Number 27 was deferred. Moving on to number 28, 550 Horner Avenue. This is an application for consent to sever the lot into two undersized residential lots, and then two applications for minor variance, one for each of the proposed parts. We have engineering and construction services conditions. Planning is okay. And in our additional materials, we have a letter of opposition from 573 Horner. And I don't believe oh yes, we do have a registered speaker, Sandra Dubois. Right?
Yeah, and she is on the line.
She's on the line. Okay, perfect. Okay. Mr. Barmy, you're the agent, correct? Are you available?
Sure.
I think we could use a little presentation on this, especially in light of the fact that you have a letter of opposition and a speaker who's registered to speak about this application. So could you tell us generally
Sure.
what you're trying to do and why you think we should approve it?
Sure, sir. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jagdeep Barmy, GS Barmy Architect. I'm the architect for 550 Horner Avenue. The application aims to divide an existing lot into three lots. Part one is actually dedicated to the city. The other two lots will have two independent contemporary homes. The redevelopment contributes to the better utilization of the property by increasing the overall livability and improving the economic viability within the neighborhood. The severance and rebuilding of two homes are a positive step towards meeting the city's housing needs. It aligns with the city's vision for growth, sustainable development, and provides a diverse range of housing options for its residents. Although the proposal requires several variances, they're all technical in nature. We work with the planning staff to reduce a few items, and I think they're okay with what we propose now. Although the proposal requires several technical variances, the proposal has a positive impact on the neighborhood aesthetics and overall streetscape. The result is two houses keeping in style with the newer and upcoming houses within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions or comments for the agent?
Sure. So part one is essentially a street dedication for road widening. And is that what's creating your front yard setback requirement, or would you have one anyway?
We will have anyways, but it's making a little bit of an impact on the number. And same thing with the lot coverage and the FSI, because the lot sizes are much smaller than, well, not much smaller, but a little bit smaller than before we dedicated the land to the city.
Okay, and I'm just noticing the property to the left on the art plan, which I'm assuming is to the west, is set back quite a bit more than yours. Can you explain why you're requesting this variance?
I think that's a little bit unusual characteristic of the of that house in the neighborhood this far.
Okay, but you're not showing me what's on the west side, so I guess I gotta go to Google to figure it out.
West side is actually a school, sorry.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. So you're saying that what you're requesting is the prevalent setback?
That's correct.
Okay, but given that there's only the two properties, yours and the other one, I thought you might want to be more in keeping with that. But anyway, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, then can we continue to hear the registered speaker? Okay.
Yep, I've unmuted Sandra.
Sandra Dubois.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could
So,
you give us your address,
good.
please?
I live at 558 Horner Avenue, so I am the property directly next to and on the west side of this current
yes.
dwelling.
Yes,
Could you just
okay.
state your name for the record, please?
Your name for the record?
Sandra Dubois. Sandra Dubois.
Okay, Ms. Dubois, your opportunity to speak. Okay, could we reset the
so
clock?
I actually,
Could we reset the clock? Yeah, thank you. Okay, go.
hi, good afternoon, members of council. I don't have a problem with what the current owner is looking to do with the property. Now, you were discussing the setback of my house that is quite far back from the front lot, from the front line, from the sidewalk. There are quite a few houses on Horner that are actually set back that far. The reason that this dwelling, and I'll call it the Kelly house because that's what it was for years, for over 100 years, this property was part of an original farmland. So that's probably why it is set so close to the front. But again, I don't have any problems with where it has to be, how far back mine is, or how close his is to the sidewalk, because right now it's currently very close to the sidewalk. My only concerns, and I'm very used to having this tall house next to me, so that doesn't bother me. Aesthetically, it's going to improve the look of the neighborhood because the current home that's there is an eyesore, to say the least. It's a very old wood house with siding that's been put over it years and years ago. This was my family home, so this is the home I grew up in, so I'm very familiar with this house next door. My concerns for the builder is that because I have bedrooms, living room, and kitchen windows on that side, I currently, because of the current layout of the house, the windows that do face onto my home are at the very top of the stairs, which looks over my house, so over my roof and everything else, which I don't have a problem with. I don't want windows being on that side looking through my bedroom windows, my kitchen window, my living room windows, because we haven't had that. And the people who live there, my mother went to school with them, so we grew up, so it was a little different situation. Now I'm going to have strangers in there, and I don't want them looking into my house because I understand that the house will obviously have to move closer to the lot line than it currently sits now. There's currently a hedge that runs down about half of the property, which gives us privacy from the neighboring house. And so we would like to make sure that a privacy fence is put all the way down. Now, I've put in the current fence that's there, so whoever purchases, whoever is doing the construction, they would need to put back sort of a privacy fence where this house is to cover the area that's now currently covered by this 6-foot hedge that, you know, kind of blocks like the kitchen window and the basement windows from looking in on my side. But at the very bottom of the driveway, I would say the bottom 10 feet, you can't have any kind of high fence, because then whoever's coming in and out of my driveway, because it's next to the school, you don't see the school kids coming across. And that's why at the property, the bottom 10 feet does not have a hedge or any way of blocking it, other than it has a chain link fence. And it's just because of the kids going back and forth to school when you're trying to come out. My driveway is very long. My driveway is 75 feet long. So it pretty much goes down almost the whole side between myself and the neighboring house.
You have a detached garage at the north end of your property, correct?
We have an attached and detached. The one is attached to the house on the north side, and then there's the one in the driveway, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for Ms. Dubois? Okay.
Let me just understand the current situation. There is a fence, you say? Not
yes, there is a fence with a hedge.
And are you concerned they'll take the fence down or the hedge down?
The hedge they can take down. I have no problems with it because my husband's the one who's maintaining that hedge right now, because it gets so overgrown, it grows into our property, into our driveway. So we maintain it, and that's we have the permission of the current owner because I have spoken with him. So he has no problems with us when we do the hedge going onto his property and taking care of that. So I just want to maintain that moving forward when the new dwellings are put up. My only concerns is the windows. I don't want windows facing into my property. And the fence. I want the privacy fence put back up because, yes, it will be a higher house. And, yes, there will be windows, obviously, at different levels. And I don't care about windows on the upper part as long as they're not looking into any of our windows. I have 3 windows on that side of the house, facing his house.
So if the hedge remains...
So I would like the fence, and I would like the fence put back up, a fence put back up. Because obviously during this construction, that fence is probably going to be in the way.
Well, the fence is on the property line, correct?
The fence is on the property line, yes, but I believe that during the construction, the fence would probably be in their way and they would want to take it down, and probably when they have to demolish the hedge, it's going to damage the fence because both have been there for a long time.
So are you looking for a condition?
So my house was, yes, so this house was built in 1950, my house, and there's always been a fence there, and there's always been an opening in the fence because of the closeness of the 2 neighbors. Now, moving forward, obviously the fence would have to be put back, but I believe through demolishing the hedge that is on 550 Corner Avenue side, that it will damage the current fence that's there.
So
and that hedge fence gives us privacy. That gives us privacy from the neighbors.
No, I understand.
Because they have 3 basement windows.
So are you looking for a condition that the fence will be replaced if it is damaged with fence?
Yes, that it'll be replaced, and not at my expense because I'm not the one causing the damage.
Okay, I just wanted to understand what we're requesting.
Yeah, and the fact that no windows on my side.
Yep.
Or that at least we're going to know where the windows are because we don't want them looking in at us. Because if I understand this drawing correctly, I believe on the west side yard, which is where I am, they're going actually closer to the lot line, correct? West side yard setback, are they going closer?
We'll let Mr. Barmy answer that question. Any more questions or comments before we turn it over to Mr. Barmy?
Windows aren't a problem.
Okay, Mr. Barmy, can you come and address Ms. DeBoe's comments about the privacy fence, the windows, and the west side lot line?
Yes, sir. The
Setback?
proposal is 4 feet away from the property, which is permitted by the bylaw. In regards to the fencing, I don't think the owner will have any issues erecting a fence after the construction is done. In regards to the windows, I think we can sit down with the neighbor, go through and see what can be done. But it doesn't any of the Committee of Adjustment issues, the variance issues. We have a deck at the back of the proposal, and we put a privacy fence there, which was requested by the planning staff.
Okay, anything else? Thank you.
But,
okay, I think we're equipped with enough evidence to decide on this. I would just pipe in with this comment. I wouldn't get involved in setting conditions about fences and hedges. I would leave that to between the neighbors to sort out between them, and that we shouldn't be involved or presumptuous about what might arise from those conversations. So that would be my view anyway. Beyond that, I guess we have urban forestry conditions 1, 2, 3, engineering and construction services conditions.
They're okay.
Hmm?
They were okay with it, I think. Wasn't it?
Yeah. So can we consider a motion?
Okay, I'm seeing the setback, sorry, I'm just going to wrap up the setback issue. I was looking at the wrong drawing. It's actually not too far out of line of the next door house, and that next door house is consistent throughout the rest of the street, so I'm okay with that. If no one has any other questions, I'm ready for a motion. Okay.
Go.
Yeah, I believe the consent is appropriate and desirable, and is not premature, meets the provincial policy statements. I find the variances to be minor and reasonable. Therefore, I'd like to move approval, subject to forestry conditions 1, 2, and 3, and subject to the ECS conditions, engineering and construction services conditions, which I think is part of that.
Okay, do we have a seconder for Mr. Comorick's motion? Mr. Ross, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Barmy and Ms. Dubois.
It is now 3 o'clock.
Now we must temporarily say goodbye to Mr. Dalton for a few minutes. And we will turn our mind now to item 29. And this is the last item on the 1 p.m. agenda. And then at roughly 4:30, I guess we'll be starting the 3 p.m. agenda. We'll see. Okay, number 29, 3350 Weston Road. This matter was deferred in February 2024 to consult with TRCA and possibly adjust the property boundary lines. This is a consent and has no, I don't believe there are any variants. Oh yeah, there is a variance application. Consent and a variance. So do we have Rosemary Humphreys, agent?
I am here, committee, Rosemary Humphrey speaking.
And your address, Rosemary?
My address is 190 Pippin Road, City of Vaughan. Do you need the postal code?
Okay. Okay, so there's nothing.
L4.
Sorry?
Oh, if you need the postal code, it's L4K4X9.
Right. Okay, perfect. So there's nothing terribly controversial about this. Maybe you could just give us an update on the adjusted property boundary line issue. I noticed there's a difference between what you were applying for in February. But beyond that, planning is okay. There are standard engineering and construction services conditions associated with the consent. Ravina Natural Features has advised that there is a development application in progress. And the TRCA is okay. There's a Hydro One advisory and a transportation comment that they have the same comment as they made in February, which I did not see in the package. Did anyone else? I don't know what they said in February. I hope it's not substantial. We have it?
ECS comments are typically incorporated. Sorry, transportation service comments are typically incorporated in the ECS memo. So whatever's in the most recent ECS memo.
So as long as we impose ECS, we're satisfying transportation.
The only thing I would ask the applicant to address, their previous notice was quite different, and now they've only identified parts 10 and 11. So if they could address what the rest of the parts are on the R plan, because I don't quite understand their application.
Okay.
Okay, Ms.
If
Humphries, if you can address that
Yes,
last
do I?
comment and tell us about the boundary line change, principally, I guess.
Yes, I was going to ask if I could share my screen, if that was possible.
Sorry, Rosemary, as indicated in the outset, only the city staff can share and only what was submitted prior to the deadline. So if you have something that was submitted that you want us to share, we can absolutely.
No, that's fine. There was, I think, 3 pages submitted before the deadline. I just wanted to refer to them because it's much easier to understand.
Yeah, we can do that. Just stand by.
And yeah, that's all I was wanting to do. Sorry. So if you pull up, there was 2 colored pages, and if you pull up the second one that's called the draft reference plan line of severance.
Yeah, I haven't started the clock yet. If you've been on here for a while, you
That's
probably
fine.
know
I
that
guess,
it's taken
yeah. Yeah, maybe while you're looking for that, I can just explain to the committee members that effectively the reason why the severance application was deferred was to allow for the comments from the TRCA to be addressed. The TRCA does not endorse fragmentation of NHS lands, if I could put it to you that way. And effectively, our original severance line would have gone in a east-west direction and allowed for the dedication of lands or the conveyance of the NHS lands into the TRCA in 2 pieces. So we had to reconfigure the line of the severance such that it would all occur within 1 piece rather than 2. And that's what the intention of the presentation. Thank you. So if you look at the green area there on the plan, that will that land area will be conveyed to the ownership of the TRCA. And originally, as part of the original application, the way it was filed, it would occur in 2, 1 from the severed land and 1 through the retained land as part of the site plan application and the zoning application that's ongoing. So we reconfigured the severance line. So effectively what you see in front of you is the pink shaded area is the proposed development of the residential condominium piece, which will be severed out from the rest of the property. The blue area is where the existing church or institutional use is occurring, and that will eventually be the remnant parcel after the green lands are put into public ownership as a condition of the site plan application process. So that's what the confusion was about and the changing in the applications, if that's helpful for you to know. I just thought by showing this plan and with the colored, it's a lot easier to understand what's happening on the site. So that was effectively the difference in the application. So the consent application, as I said, is to remove or convey the pink area plans for the residential component. The variances that we are seeking deal strictly with the existing church and the remnant parcel that will arise through the severance application and eventually after the open space lands are conveyed to the TRCA. So that deals with the rear yard setback at the back of the property, a side yard setback between the existing church and the proposed residential building, as well as some parking spaces in terms of where they are in fact located on the site, and I think a reduction of one space overall. So that's sort of the effect of the application. I can tell the committee that the zoning application actually was endorsed by the community council, and the actual bill or the bylaw, it will be brought forward to council for approval at the end of April, at which point in time, I guess we'll be moving forward to finalize the site plan application associated with the residential component. Is that helpful for you?
For sure. Yes. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Two, if I may. Why does the art plan have 11 parts?
The art plan has 11 parts because there are existing easements showing on that, I guess, for hydro and whatnot.
That's fine. Understood. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what confuses the heck out of you without that other presentation. Then I just have a question around the parking variance. I think I know the answer, but I just wanted to clarify it because essentially there's two variances. Let me just pull up the notice. Notice for part 10. Variance 3 and variance 4 seem to contradict each other, yet they're from the same bylaw. Is that an old and new situation?
Yes.
Okay. So you're required to fulfill both, which is an impossibility.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so no more questions for Ms. Humphreys? I don't believe we have a registered speaker either in the room or at home.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So then let's go into committee for a decision on the consent and the minor variance applications. The only condition I see if we're moving toward approval is engineering and construction services.
Barb, you're good with the explanation on the severance?
Yes, I'm just curious how they're going to achieve the conveyance to TRCA.
Okay.
Because it's not mentioned.
I'm happy to respond to that, and I did touch on it briefly. The TRCA is going to make a condition of approval that the area that I've shown in green or the open space lands be put into their ownership. Because it's going to a public agency, a consent application is not required. It's a conveyance through a reference plan.
So will that be through the site plan application or the rezoning?
Yes. Yes, and their comments, I think, that they provided with this application also indicate that.
Well, they haven't really provided much, that's why. As long as the committee's satisfied that it can be achieved through that, then this is all we have before you today.
I can advise the committee that a consent application is not required to convey a land to a public agency.
So maybe we limit ourselves to approval of, what is it, parts 10 and 11?
I don't know, because the minutes refer to parts 10, 11, and 12. I don't even know what part 12 is at this point.
Which one's the TRCA lot? I clicked my R plan up and nothing, oh, there it is.
Well, it's not, this severance doesn't reflect the conveyance to TRCA.
We did
Yes.
ask for a cover letter, which is in your additional materials. That's the only place where I see reference to the fact that parts 1 to 9 will be conveyed to TRCA. Okay, so they've addressed it. It just, I didn't know if the mechanism should be through committee as a condition, which we don't have the appropriate conditions, or if it can be achieved through further planning applications.
I would think it would make sense to leave it to the site plan process separately, and we'll just focus on the,
No, that was a good catch. I didn't see that in the TRCA
Okay.
memo, so they've addressed it then.
Okay, I'm still confused, because on the R plan, I'm looking at a part 10 and a part 11, which I understand are the two retained pieces.
yeah, part 10 is the place of worship and part 11 is the
Okay, but
14-story condo.
the consent notice is asking us, no, okay, I'm looking at a different consent notice. Okay.
We can add.
I'm okay, I got it.
Yeah, they would add that part 10, church site, and part 11, which is alongside it. Absolutely, they really that with that part. They address all of it from 1 to 11 in the background section.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how to package all of that into a motion.
So we can add a line to the notice portion, not a condition, to acknowledge, because right now the lands comprise of more than just parts 10 and 11.
Yeah.
They do include 1 to 9, and that's sort of just been avoided. So we can add a line that says parts 1 to 9, having an area of whatever it is, will be conveyed. And the difference is the applicant is saying to TRCA is saying to the City of Toronto. We can word it vaguely to say parts 1 to 9 will be conveyed as open space natural area. No, the decision has to be a standalone document, right? Like you don't want to look for something else to form the decision. I would trust TRCA's take on it if it's going to City of Toronto versus TRCA. Yeah. No.
Okay, we're at the point where there's any comfort in constructing a motion.
But she wants to know which public body.
If you've got it in your mind, and I would defer to you because it's still a little cloudy. I'm thinking what we're going to do is you would be making a statement that parts 1 through 9 are to be conveyed to the city of
Part 10 is to be retained, and Part 11 is to be conveyed.
At a future time, to the city of parts 1 through 9. Because we have to reference the black art. Yeah. That's the only thing we got.
Yes, it is.
We can state that parts 1 to 9 will be conveyed to either the City of Toronto or the TRCA.
At a future time?
Yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So then the motion would be that parts 1 through 9 are to be conveyed to the City of Toronto and or TRCA at some point in the future. Part 10 is to be retained and part 11 is to be well, parts 10 and 11 are to be severed from parts 1 through 9. And from each other.
And from each other,
yeah. And do we have any, oh, right, and then on the approval of the variances, they're really technical in nature and therefore minor. Would like to move approval of the variances subject to ECS conditions.
Wouldn't the ECS conditions apply to the
consent? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no conditions on the minor?
No conditions on the minor variances, correct.
Strictly on the severance.
Just, yeah, so ECS conditions to the severance. This is why I couldn't put it all together in one sentence. That's sort of my motion.
I'll second.
Is staff comfortable with formulating this? We didn't mention changing the purpose, but Phil, that's going to be done. We don't have to say that. Okay. Do you have enough instructions? Is there a seconder for Mr. Komorik's carefully crafted motion? Ms. Ruddock?
I second it. Let's go with
All in favor?
All in favor. This is one we're going to read in the
That
minutes.
is a unanimous approval.
We got to read the minutes for this one.
I had that one down for 30 seconds a half an hour ago, but anyway.
I told you when we got here.
Yeah.
You didn't believe me.
Thank you, Ms. Humphreys.
Now we're coming to what we're going to do.
Now the 1 p.m. session is adjourned until, what do you think?
Yeah, Mr. You can. No, we have everyone on the line. Yeah, so mic checks is not something that we necessarily need to do. The only thing is you just have to read the intro.
Okay. I don't think I'll introduce you this time.
That's okay.
So I don't have any registered speakers listed here, but you sounds like you do.
Yeah, I have them. It's on the last page. You should have them. They're all yeah, they're all there. Sorry, not registered speakers, but agents.
Oh yeah, 30. Sorry, just a second. They're just the agents.
Yeah, there's the agents. And the gentleman in the chambers is the owner's father for item 31.
31.
Yeah.
And he doesn't wish to speak? He's observing?
No. Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. All right.
So you gotta read this again.
Do I have to read that thing?
One last time.
Listen up, Bill.
You missed the excitement.
Okay, are we ready? I can start? Good afternoon again. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have requested in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will be automatically muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government has amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Hearing procedure. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call first on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The applicant will then be taken into committee for a decision. I would now ask if there are any declarations of interest of the panel or staff for items in this time slot. Seeing none, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I would ask you if there are any deferral requests in this portion of the agenda.
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed?
No.
Okay, so we can proceed with the third part of today's agenda, which is 4 items, numbers 30 to 33. And we will commence with application number 30, 24 REDBANK Road. We have Urban Forestry Condition 2, Ravine and Natural Features Protection Advisory, that a permit application is required. TRCA is okay. Planning is okay. And there are transportation services conditions. Do we have the agent, Jonathan Hatch, online?
This is Jonathan Hatch, the agent for 24 REDBANK Road. My address is 6 Bishop Street, Toronto, Ontario, M5R 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hatch. This appears to be a pretty straightforward matter to deal with. I think you only have, well, yeah, seven minor variances that you're requesting, but there are no agency issues except urban forestry with their condition. No public opposition, no registered speakers. So may we proceed with asking questions that we may have in lieu of a presentation on this straightforward matter?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's
Thank
do
you.
that then. So panel, questions or comments for Mr. Hatch on item 30?
Just a question again on transportation has 3 conditions, one of which is essentially the elimination of variance 7. So I'm assuming you're okay with that?
Yes, we're okay with the conditions of transportation.
Okay, so you're going to provide the charging stations?
Yes, we're actually going to provide charging stations, so we can, yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's good catch. So we're now dealing with an application for 6 variances.
Yes, and two of the variances have been revised as well, 5 and 6. Just want to confirm that you're in agreement with those revisions?
Yes, those appear to be correct.
Okay. That's it for me.
No more? Ms. Ruddock, any questions? No?
Mr. Hatch, you're
Ross?
deleting variance number 7?
That's
Yes,
correct.
Yes.
eliminating
Thank you.
7 and revising 5 and 6 per the revised application. Mr. Dalton, any questions or comments?
They still need the TRCA permit.
Yeah, but that's advisory. We don't involve ourselves in that.
What are the other transportation conditions? I'm just trying to see.
Urban forestry too?
No, transportation.
Oh, what's the second one?
Yeah, the third one is always just new drawing, but okay, I'm going to leave the transportation conditions in place because that just makes them revise the drawings. That's all it is. So that's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
So anybody willing to construct a motion for our consideration?
Sure. I'd like to move a motion to approve the application as it is clear the applicant has worked with the required authorities. I think the application meets the 4 tests and is supportable, subject to forestry and transportation conditions. That's the application then as revised.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion?
I will second that motion.
Mr. Komarek, all in favor? That application is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hatch.
Thank you.
Item 31, 59 Talon Road, and I understand we have the applicant's father with us today. And sir, you do not wish to speak, you're just observing, is that correct?
Well,
Unless you wish to speak?
Well, it's either or, so.
Yes, it's either or.
there is an agent for my daughter or not? So he can let him present the
Okay, we
application.
already have your daughter speaking. Is that correct? We have the agent.
No agent? Okay, so let him speak.
You've got your agent. Okay, let's proceed on that basis. Sal Crimmy?
Community Adjustment Staff, Sal Creamy, address 2572 Edmonton Avenue West.
Okay, again, I think pretty straightforward. One variance on the driveway width. Oh, wait a sec, 31. Yeah, one variance. Transportation's okay, and it's only that agency that is impacted by that variance. Urban forestry condition 1. Sir, would you be okay to proceed with your participation being limited to answering any questions that we may have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's do that then. Panel, any questions for Mr. Crimmy? Comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Since this is a maintained existing, I'm assuming you're proposing no work to be done?
No, and if you want me to further on the existing condition explanation, I can. Would you
No,
like me
no,
to?
no, that's all I want to know, because if you're not doing any
Okay.
work, I'm just wondering why we should be imposing a forestry condition.
Yeah, it's to maintain the existing condition that is present.
Okay, so you're doing nothing. You're basically just asking for approval for what you already have, or
If we're
what
going
your
to be
client
completely
already
open
has.
and honest, if we're going to be completely open and honest, the cover letter does state the future intention for ballers, which would involve excavations. I'll leave it to the committee whether the condition shall be imposed or not.
Okay, so let me have a look at your site plan and see if you're proposing any work on there.
There's nothing on the site plan. It's the intention that's stated within the cover letter. Due to recent car thefts, the intention is to install bollards,
Right.
which will be in proximity to the silver maple present on the site plan.
Okay. Are you going to need a permit for the bollards?
Not if the depth of excavation exceeds 4 feet.
You're going to want to be frost-free, are you not?
Yeah, so 4 feet will be
4 feet,
frost free. So as
yeah.
long as excavations, as long as excavations do not exceed 4 feet, a permit will not be required.
Okay. So that leaves us with the dilemma whether to impose a condition or not.
Yeah, because the driveway is undersized
the dri-
as of right.
Yeah.
No downside.
They requested a lot.
No downside to putting it on, your view, Mr. Ross?
Yeah. They asked for it.
If it helps at all, we can see the existing canopy size of the tree very minimally encroaches onto the driveway. So there doesn't appear to be an immediate concern whatsoever to the silver maple that's noted, even if bollards were installed.
Okay, so you wouldn't be opposed to that condition then? Okay. Okay.
Okay, so are we ready for a motion?
I'll do one. So, motion to approve this application, subject to the forestry condition number 1. It's minor nature and consistent with the 4 test.
Is there a seconder?
I will second that motion.
Give this to Mr. Ross. All in favor? That is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving to application number item 32, 2541 to 2549 Weston Road. There is one variance and a Metrolinx advisory. And this variance deals with conducting internal alterations to an existing food store that I know well on Weston Road in order to permit 2 new retail uses that are not ancillary to the food store. And I think in the presentation material that we've already read, it just points out a sort of emerging reality in the retail industry about the types and sizes of stores that are desirable. So I would put this forth as very straightforward and not requiring a presentation unless anybody wants one.
I wonder if
Do you
the
have questions?
internal alterations include the gate?
Are you asking the question?
No, I just comment.
But is it a comment that you wish the agent to hear?
No,
No.
not necessarily.
You were just talking to yourself. Okay.
Okay.
That's allowed once in a while.
Please turn off your microphone when speaking to yourself.
Okay, we have no registered speakers. We have no one at home. So let's consider a motion.
I have a question.
Oh,
sorry. There is a parking justification report, but there are no comments from transportation whether they agree with that report or not. And so I just wanted to ask the agent if there's been any consultation with transportation services.
Sorry, Jonathan Roger here from Zelinka Pramo. We're the agent on the application. Sorry, just wanted to make sure you knew I was here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you've provided a parking justification report. Have you had any correspondence or communication with the transportation department at the city?
No, the intention for the parking justification letter was just to give comfort that there was an abundance of parking on site. There was no request for one. We just submitted that on in our own will, just because we wanted to be sure that committee understood that there was no additional parking issues created. There's no parking variance here. We didn't receive any questions or comments from transportation planning, so it was really just in an abundance of caution, just to give comfort that there's no parking issue here.
Okay, just wanted to get the context for that, and I know it's not the easiest mall to get out of, so.
And Mr. Roger, I apologize for not inviting you to allow us to proceed without hearing from you. That was a mistake on my part. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. It's been a long afternoon, I'm sure, for you, so it's all
Okay,
fine.
no, I've been making mistakes all day, but anyway. Now let us proceed in camera to consider a motion.
Okay, I'd like to move a motion to approve the application. I believe that it is supportable. It meets the 4 tests, and there are no conditions. Oh, yes, there is. No, there isn't.
Nope.
No, it's clear. There you go.
Seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion. Mr. Ross, all in favor? That application is approved unanimously. The 33rd and final item for today is 48 Anglesey Boulevard. The purpose is to construct a 2-story front addition that will include a proposed garage extension. We have urban forestry condition 1. There are 4 variances. Transportation services is okay, and we have a community planning condition, and Jonathan Benskowski is the agent.
Good evening, committee.
Good afternoon, Jonathan. Is there a comment or two that you require? We don't require a full presentation, that's for sure. Pretty straightforward. We could
No,
just,
I-
we could
I
just
think we could
proceed
say-
with answering, asking questions potentially, or.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
So we'll just see if there are any questions and then we'll make a decision. How about that?
Sounds good.
You're good? Okay. Panel. Questions, comments?
So I'm assuming then, sir, you wouldn't have any objection if we tied it to the site plan and to the elevations?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then if
Anything else?
nothing else, then I'm prepared to make that motion.
Go for it.
So I move to approve the application, subject to it being tied to the staff condition of tying it to the site plan and the elevations.
And urban forestry 1,
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on the other side of my sheet. Forestry 1.
friendly amendment. Seconder, Mr. Dalton, all in favor? That application is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Piskowski. So, I declare this meeting adjourned at 4:57.
Do a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes, I need a motion to adjourn. Who moves adjournment?
I'll move adjournment because my bet was for 5 o'clock, so.
Oh, okay. And I don't believe we need a second.
Guess, my guess. Sorry?
What was for 5 o'clock?
We were guessing what time we
Oh.
were going to finish at the beginning of the morning.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's just stumble around for 2 minutes.
No, it's fine.
So that he'll be right. I don't think we need a seconder for a motion to adjourn. No, we don't. All in favor? We are adjourned at 4:58 PM. Sorry, Stan, you lose. Okay. It's $10.
No prize for you, Stan.